Hello and welcome. I am Morpheus, and today I am going to ask the age-old question and provide my personal answer. Does God and or the Christ exist? And if so, what real evidence do I have that he or they indeed exist? Well, I personally would believe that there is a God or a deity or a creator or a Christ if there is strong enough evidence, that's solid, irrefutable evidence, that he or they do indeed exist. First, I would need, in order to prove this, evidence, valid or irrefutable evidence that proves the existence of God or the Christ. I would need valid historical records, eyewitness accounts, historical records, established facts. The evidence must prove itself. It must be evident. The claimed facts must be verified as established facts. According to three people, two translators and one former head patriarch in around 1957 of an ancient church who have never met each other or sat in the same room debating their claims, so cannot sway one or all to their way of thinking, their ideals or claims. These three are in agreement, which establishes the facts claimed by them as fact, if it all synchronizes, if they're all in agreement to what was found, written and claimed, okay, or testified. They will agree, or they all agree, that two or more of the original disciples of the Christ, or Jesus the Messiah, fled Jerusalem and ran across lands through China. Evidence left a stele with Chinese script on it and Aramaic underneath, and ventured on to India. In fact, there Thomas was the founder of the original church, i.e. the Apostolic Orthodox Catholicos Church of the East, and left certain texts of what Jesus the Messiah actually said and did, in accordance to what can be found in the modern Bible today, because he was close to the Christ, hung around with the Christ because he was one of the 12 disciples. He left these supposed original manuscripts with the elected priest of that church, or the high priest of that church, in order to proselyte, preach the good news further on in India. Yeah, he went around India and he preached, and he founded more churches here, around about 9 of them apparently. Setting up around 9 other churches still in use today, before being martyred or killed, put to death by an Indian sect because of his witnessing, teaching the Gospels, good news about Jesus the Messiah. The AramaicScriptures.com, there was a statement there by the head patriarch, but it's been taken down, it's been removed of late for some reason, that the original manuscripts given by Thomas were hidden and preserved for 2,000 years and therefore were intact, had never been messed with or changed, right? They're as good as the day they were given by Thomas, hidden from the Roman Catholic Church and Islam, etc. for over 2,000 years, which, as I already stated, preserve them and again have been verified as being exact as the day they were given, i.e. were never tampered with or altered in any way. So would that not prove that the Christ existed, that he actually existed, that he had disciples, one being Thomas, another Thaddeus or Jude, etc., that, as previously mentioned, fled Jerusalem, went across lands into China, and then went on to India, set up, founded other churches in the East, Burhai, etc., and then were martyred, were killed for their belief in the Christ. One may say, oh, but unless I see them with my own eyes, it's merely subjective. Anyone can say this or that and sound convincing. It's only evident if I see it. It's still not proof. Okay, so if you go to the AramaicScriptures.com, I've already done a video on this. There's a picture of it, the Kibboris Codex, one of the original manuscripts that the translator, the Messianic Jew, Angel Gabriel Roth, is translated from. Okay, and there's also a copy of a news report about its discovery. Okay, there's also a native-born Aramaic-speaking translator, filmmaker Victor Alexander, a native-born Mesopotamian that uses a modern vernacular because the old original language apparently is dead. It's not in use anymore. Talking on a video about it. If you look on YouTube, it's called The Scriptures of Adam and Eve, or Adam and Eve in the Scriptures, and he talks exclusively about it in the Aramaic vernacular. Okay, still need proof, still need more proof. Okay, today's Jewish scholars know of the original language. The Old Testament was written by the Old Testament scribes, prophets, as there are traces of it in one of the Talmud. They know it as Kitab Asherit, the older sister language Aramaic of the Hebrew, often referred to in ancient times as Aramaic Hebrew. Okay. According to the story of Jonah, the book of Jonah, or Jonah the dove, who went to Nineveh, the capital of Assyria. He went there to warn the people and the king of, at that time, of Nineveh, of God's wrath to come upon them for their sins. Jonah spoke Aramaic, or Aramaic Hebrew. The king was so convinced of Jonah's God, he considered him the one true God. So he ordered all of his people, according to that book, to don sackcloth, put on animals, throw dust all over themselves, smash all the idols they had, repent and worship Jonah's God, the one true God. The king wrote all he learned from Jonah, who was speaking Aramaic Hebrew, right, down on clay tablets in his language, Asherit, as he was an Asherai king, right? Because Nineveh was capital of Assyria, I think, at the time. And the king spoke the Assyrian tongue, or Asherit, or the Assyrian tongue. All of his people, the Asherai, followed all he instructed, respect for the king, I suppose, them to do. Well, maybe they loved the king so much. Well, he was their king. Centuries later, Nineveh was invaded and destroyed by the Babylonians, etc. And the library that King Ashurbanipal had built, because he really got into reading the old texts, he ordered his some of his subjects to go out as missionaries and get the original copies if they could and bring them back, or if they couldn't, just get copies and bring them back, right? And he created this great Nineveh library and put all these copies in there, and he was just a total tablet worm, bookworm at the time, right? Who wanted to know it all, so he got hold of the Sumerian, Akkadian, Babylonian stories of the Great Flood, the creation, Epic of Gilgamesh, Enuma Elish, etc., etc. Right, and stored them in there. Then later on they got invaded. The thing was burnt down or destroyed in around about was it 1900s. It was uncovered by Sir Henry Layard and Ormuz. I can't remember his last name. He's Arab. They helped him, and a couple of others, I think. And they uncovered 30,000 tablets, fragments, Okay, and then eventually shipped them off to the British Museum, where they remain today. Apparently George Smith later translated them in English, as did so many others that followed. One of them, Victor N. Alexander, this is later years, Victor Alexander, a native-born Mesopotamian translator, Aramaic speaker from Bet Nahrain, Mesopotamia, went to the British Museum and examined them and found that they had cuneiform on top and the Aramaic underneath, so he began to translate it into English. Hence his Old Testament translations of Brita or Genesis to Micah. He brought an original manuscript copy in Bible format from a high priest of the original Church of the East and translated it into English. He says it was written in the original language, the original Aramaic. Okay, and he also did the Galilean-Aramaic New Testament, translated those manuscripts into English. He says it was written in the original language Jesus and his disciples spoke. Many say his translations is this and that, or they're not that great, or he makes a mistake here and there, without realising he probably used a certain Aramaic dialect, a vernacular, because that language probably died out or something. I'm not really sure to do so. So these may be, there may be differences to what people claim they are expert in. Okay? They'll say, oh, it's according to the Palestinian Aramaic or Hebrew or whatever, because these people have learned to write it from some institution, right? They don't really know it. They don't speak it naturally or fluently. They weren't born speaking it, so they're not really fluent in it. They're taking it on board, which is, there is a difference, right? Okay, so hopefully that's enough proof. What I was basically trying to get at here is that these supposed original manuscripts, as attested to by Angel Gabriel Roth at the AramaicScriptures.com, the former head patriarch of the original Apostolic Orthodox Catholic Church of the East, Ysho, I've forgotten his name. It was up on that channel, but he took it down. Website, he took that portion down. He was head patriarch in 1957, assassinated in 1957. He also attested that they were the original manuscripts given by Thomas and Jude, etc. And they're hidden in Brazil for 2,000 years and weren't messed with, as does Victor N. Alexander. The difference with Angel Gabriel Roth, a Messianic Jew or Christian Jew, is he's translated from the Syriac, the ancient Eastern Peshitta, Syriac Peshitta, into English. Whereas a Mesopotamia-born Victor N. Alexander is supposedly translating from the Galilean-Aramaic or some vernacular close to that. Well, it's pretty, apparently it's a derivative of the ancient Asherit, so yeah, he's basically translating from that, apparently. Because yeah, being a derivative would be pretty similar according to what he stated. Yeah, okay, so if this is all supposedly the original manuscripts attested to as by these three people, okay, then they are the very words Christ uttered, and an exact telling, a description of what he did while among the disciples, Thomas and Jude and so forth, according to Thomas and Jude, who presented these original manuscripts or texts to the high priest of that church that they founded in Uruhai, the Apostolic Orthodox Catholic Church of the East. So that verifies, doesn't it, that this man Christ existed. Okay. How do they refer to him? They call him Maria Eoshoa or Ysho Msheekah, or Jesus the Messiah. That's who they're talking about. That's his Galilean-Aramaic name, and the Hebrew is Yeshua, which is equivalent to Joshua in English. So why aren't these people running around, these Christians, that saying, oh, his name's this, his name's that, his name's Yeshua, whatever, saying, well, Joshua instead of Jesus, which is the Greek translation, Eoshoa, which supposedly means hail Zeus, and in the Latin, it's means yes or something like that in the Roman Catholic Latin. All these claims, okay. Go do your research on that. There's a lot of people who say, oh, no, and debunk it, when it's all like, in the dictionary, encyclopedias, whatever. It's all out there. Go do your own personal research and verify that it in fact is from the Greek, right, the Eoshoa, or wherever you pronounce it, and the Latin. Okay, so again, wouldn't that prove that this guy Christ existed and he had these 12 disciples that existed, if those original manuscripts are from that first, that era, Jesus era, or the Christ era, around 1 AD. Okay. So it would then prove that through Thomas, or a couple of disciples, who were right beside him when he said all that stuff and did all that stuff, in his presence, that he preached in Jerusalem, Israel, or wherever, and he lived and died, did all those miraculous things, and was killed, crucified, buried, and rose again on the third day. So the proofs are visible, evident, irrefutable, that the original manuscript proves, verifies that a man named Jesus Christ, Ysho Msheekah, or Eoshoa Msheekah, actually existed prior to 1 AD. Does it not? Hopefully you haven't made a mess of that. Basically, if they're the supposed original manuscripts given by an original disciple, preserved for 2,000 years, never changed, well, I can believe that. Okay, so I was listening to Cliff Nectar, or whatever his name is, on YouTube, give me an answer, and he was basically saying, he'd believe, so I'd believe in a God or the Christ, according to the evidence, if there indeed is evidence, or was evidence. But first I must or need to prove or show valid proof, evidence, that he indeed did or does exist. Via historical records, historical evidence, established facts. The evidence has to prove itself. And this is a system, he said, he uses when he's talking to a young Chinese man who had some confusion and some questions. He said, 1. Everything that has a beginning has a cause. 2. Evidence of order and design points to a creator. 3. DNA, it points to an intelligence. Densely packed information requires an intelligent mind. To prove all, he uses 4 methods. 1. Literary style, possibly to recognize who the texts were actually written by. Okay, is it did it actually come from, or were they from Paul the apostle, or another writer claimed? Okay, Paul had a certain style. He'd always open his letters with, I, Paul, apostle of Christ, etc., etc., because he was well aware that there was some, not so much forgeries, but copies or letters or whatever, saying that that Paul wrote them when he didn't. I think it was about 7 out of 13 he actually wrote so the letter of books, and the rest he didn't. They're all pseudepigrapha. 2. Archaeological evidence. It has to verify what the Bible is saying. It must match. Unfortunately, the chronological timetable created is too far forward by about 200 years, apparently, so that's been proven that it's out. Okay. In regards to who was the Pharaoh of Egypt, it was claimed it was Ramses II, when the correct chronological timetable was reconstructed. It was found that he wasn't. Okay. 3. Manuscript evidence. The claim that Thomas the disciple fled Jerusalem, founded the original church in the east, and left the original texts or manuscripts. Yeah, that would be proof that the original manuscripts state this and that, and they were never tampered with. Hidden for 2,000 years, were never tampered with. 4. Internal consistency. Does the Bible consistently verify events that happened through the various scribes, prophets, writers of the OT and NT, Old Testament, New Testament? So they're basically saying the same thing. Say in the New Testament that Christ lived, he was God in the flesh, he lived, he did this, he did that, he did miracles, he died, he was crucified, he died, he rose again on the 3rd day, all that sort of stuff. Are they all saying the same thing? They're all agreeing. Okay. There is a claim that a certain church, the original Apostolic Orthodox Church of the East, was given the original manuscripts by the original disciples of Christ, who then fled Jerusalem, went across lands through China to India, founded 9 churches all over, left the original text of what Christ said and did there, as they were around him at the time. They witnessed it, which were hidden, therefore preserved for over 2,000 years by these high priests, right, and verified by the head patriarch in 1957 as not being messed with, tampered with, and changed. Okay, so if you like this little video information, verifying that the Christ did in fact exist, he had disciples that actually set up a church, proving that they existed and he existed. So if you like that this video, then subscribe to our channel, leave comments below, give us a thumb up. Don't forget to ring that bell so you get instant notification of any other interesting videos we have on the real truth, right, that we're going to try and get across to you in regards to the scriptures. Don't forget to give us a thumb up, and then tell your friends, neighbours, Christian friends, this is the truth. This is what was originally written 2,000 years ago, and it was hidden and preserved in the original language that Christ spoke.